Hey friends, welcome into GoJo and Golic. Emerson, Claudia Bellafato here in the Boston DraftKings studio. I'm glad I have someone to keep me company because we have a packed show and he is bringing the energy. We've got some NFL talk. We'll be joined by Cam Bynum and Will Blackman. What else?
Will Blackman loves wine, by the way. He does. So we'll talk to him about that. DeShaun Foster will be here to discuss UCLA's move to the Big Ten. They're going to be racking up the air miles, going to Hawaii, then going to Rutgers, all over the joint. New conference, new year, new us.
And Sixers insider Devon Givens will join us to talk about the Bridges trade and Sixers off season.
Welcome all into GoJo and Golic. I am Mike Golic Sr. There is no GoJo, but we'd love you to join us anyway, and I don't.
Please.
We'll see if you guys miss them. I really don't. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review, or wherever you're listening. Leave us a 5-star rating. Watch us live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Joining me today, both in studio in our Boston studios, is Claudia Bellafato, who's been there as Jesse Caulfield has been on maternity leave, as her time is winding down with us. And then, of course, Emerson Latzia, who is going to do something gross today. We're not sure what, but he will. What I want to know is, normally when we have like a guest in the studios there, one of you two is at the desk and the other person has to be in a chair. Are you both actually at the desk? And how did that work out? We can never get a guest to sit at the desk.
Senior,
I'm in a chair.
Senior, we're in a chair at the desk, but I will let you know he already walked in this morning with like 4 buttons undone. So
I'm hot, man.
It's already been a little. We've
It's
already
humid
gotten
outside.
today.
It's really, really humid outside, and I am naturally a big-time sweater here, Golic. And I know the entire Golic family loves to sweat as well. So even walk a couple blocks to work, I don't care if it's 6:30 in the morning. The humidity is like, I'm going to make you feel disgusting and miserable, despite you just getting out of the shower. Tough, really tough.
I mean, are you one of these people that comes in and just complains about everything right away?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Seriously?
Yes, dude. Yes. But it's okay. It takes me about 15 minutes. I snap out of it, bring the energy up. Let's go. Come on. We got a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. So you're trying to deflect now. After complaining, you're trying to deflect to say you don't complain. Because that's all. Whenever I get doing shows over the years, when people come in that do it, and I know you normally do it, so I'm not talking about you guys here. People would come in and start the show who aren't used to doing it in the morning and say, "Oh man, I'm tired," or "I'm this," or "I'm that." I'm like, you know what? Anybody driving to work doesn't want to hear it because everybody's got to be up now in the morning, driving to work, probably not real happy about it. So the last thing they want to do as they're trying to be entertained by somebody for a couple hours is hear them complain as well.
It's actually the first thing we did was complain about
I got 2 hours of sleep last night because I did a show, but you know what? It is Friday Eve. I'm on a show with the great Golic Sr. and Emerson. So we're fired up, man. Let's go. Great NBA draft last night. We got some good interviews. We're ready. Let's go.
Yeah, we are. So we'll get to it. The NBA draft, the first round, first year it's a 2-day draft. So the first round was yesterday. Today at 4:00 Eastern will be the second round. So now we're on those that slipped out of the first round we'll get to, and of course the Bronny James watch in the second round on where he's going to go. But the first round, I don't think really there were too many surprises. We saw the two Frenchmen, Zach Richelet and Alex Sarr, go 1 and 2. Zach to the Hawks and Alex to the Wizards. After that, we had number 3. You had Reed Sheppard, Stephon Castle to the Spurs. Reed Sheppard went to the Rockets at 3, Castle 4 to the Spurs. I love that pick. We're going to get into a little bit of the first surprise many thought in the draft was Ron Holland from the G League going to the Pistons at number 5. And then we get to, I'm gonna struggle with these names. Claudia, you're kind of our resident French person just because you speak a little bit of French now. Yeah. So I'm throwing it all on you. But as we talk about the first round here so far, and we're going to have more in the second round, it's been and I'm sure others are going to use this line today, a French revolution as far as in the NBA draft. There were 4 French players taken in the first round. And actually there's a incredible list of French players that have gone in the last few rounds. But let's talk about these first. Richelet, as I said, went number 1. Sarr, number 2. And then number 6, boy, oh boy. And I apologize to these players if I'm not saying their name right. Tijane Saloon went number 6. How was that? Did that sound all right? He went to the Hornets?
It's more like Sioun. I'm pretty sure.
Sioun?
It's like you sort of get the L in there and the AUN goes together. But you know what? That's just great. That's good right there. You got it.
And then number 25 to the Knicks was Pacome Dadier. Am I close on that one? So you had 4 Frenchmen taken in the first round. You still have a couple more. Just a quick note on foreign players and Frenchmen, 14 picks. So the last 2 drafts, the first 7 picks of the last 2 drafts, so that's 14 picks, 5 have been Frenchmen. There have been 12 French players drafted in the last 3 draft, and there's going to be possibly a couple of more today. The last 6 MVPs going now to not just France, but overseas. The last 6 MVPs have been overseas players. And in this draft, I mentioned the Frenchman. You also had the 9th pick a Canadian, the 12th pick a Serbian, the 18th pick a German, and a Cameroonian in the 21st pick. So 9 foreign players in the first round. We may get to 17 foreign players, Emerson, by the end of this draft. So I think it's also one of the reasons we have gone to pro basketball players in the Olympics because, worldwide this game has become so good and starting to challenge the U.S. as far as stars that are coming over from overseas into the NBA.
Yeah, French Renaissance happening in the NBA right now. Can't forget, do not sleep on some guy named Victor Wembanyama, who was taken number 1 overall last year. Senior, this draft marked the 3rd consecutive year that at least 4 French players were drafted. So whatever France is doing right now on the basketball court, it is clearly working.
Yeah, they host the Olympics this year. We'll see what happens in the Olympics. Now, I can't see anybody touching the U.S. team this year, but we've seen the U.S. team, when the stars didn't go and we felt we kind of had it in the bag a little bit. You go all the way back to the 92 Dream Team of what that was, when saying, hey, we had to go over and set a precedent of how good we were. And then that kind of slipped and slacked off a little bit. But now I can't see anybody touching this team, but there's no doubt the rest of the world got better. I'm wondering with you guys, is there a certain pick or a couple of picks that surprised you or maybe, you thought were the better picks in the draft? I love Castle. Stephon Castle from UConn going to San Antonio. The Spurs, now they traded away. They had 2 picks in the top 10. They traded another one, that 8th pick, to Minnesota. They took Rob Dillingham, the guard out of Kentucky. So we'll get to that. But Stephon Castle, we keep talking about Wembanyama, and he's on a really bad team. Can that team build up? How long will it take them to build up? The thought they had 2 top 10 picks, how great that would be, but they do end up trading one away and getting a decent haul for it back to continue to build. But Castle, so quick to the basket, plays elite defense, but then you think about the pick and roll that you can have with Wembanyama. And so I think the start of building around Victor with Castle, I think Claudia has been a really, really good move.
Yeah, he needs some help. Speaking of UConn, though, the one surprise that everyone was talking about, and we'll call it the slide, I guess, of the night of day one, was Donovan Clingan of UConn sliding to 7. When it came to the odds, guys, I mean, we sort of knew the Frenchman was going to go number 1, but Clingan was the second shortest odds when it came to that market in terms of going number 1 overall. Bettors did well, though. 27% of the handle, 30% of the bets were on Clingan to go 7th. You mentioned the Wolves moving up for Rob Dillingham at 8. And the fact that they also got Terrence Shannon Jr., I would say they had probably one of the better day ones of the crew, or one of the better teams of the crew of day one. Because you think about what they have already, and now these are 2 first-round draft guys that they're putting around those pieces, a young team they can really build into based off of what they did this past postseason, Senior. I think Timberwolves fans should be excited.
Well, I completely agree. Mike Conley, the guard there, going to be 37 years old, so you have to start looking for that replacement, and that could be Dillingham, back in the backcourt with Anthony Edwards. He's very quick, good passer as well. Maybe a little bit of a liability on defense, but they have a lot of defensive players on that Minnesota team there. They play some good defense, led by the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert. So I did like that move a lot for them. Again, if there were those that maybe were scratching their head that San Antonio wouldn't take another pick there to try and keep building around Victor, but you grab some assets for it. Emerson, I'm wondering, Claudia just talked about Clingan sliding a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there was the Zach Edey pick just a couple of bit too later for Memphis at number 9, and people thought maybe that's too much of a reach. You got 2 big guys that went kind of a little bit in opposite directions, right? With Clingan maybe falling a little bit and Edey going up a little higher than people thought.
Yeah, and the Grizzlies really wanted Clingan there. There were reports that they were trying to make a deal to move up and grab him. They ended up having to settle for Zach Edey. And Zach Edey, in my eyes, 2-time College Player of the Year at Purdue. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch his development and see the fit of a massive 7'4" big man in today's NBA game. But he clearly impressed executives, Senior, and scouts with his strength. He's got that low post play, the ability to pass out on double teams here. I'm reading from an expert who knows a lot more about Zach Edey than I do, but he obviously gives that team more versatility. It's a team that's on the rise in the West before off-court problems and everything that happened with John Morant last year. We're talking about a Grizzlies team that was ascending and won 51 games, 2 seasons ago, and then 56 3 seasons prior to that. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. You're not going to miss him out there, that's for sure, when he is on the court.
I watched a lot of Zach Edey the last couple of years, and the big thing, I think the word I would use with him is improvement, of how much better he got. And I think he's going to be paired very nice with John Morant. I mean, imagine the pick and roll with a 7'5" guy. You're rolling and you can just kind of throw it up to him and he should be able to get it. So I kind of like that pairing. I get what Memphis wanted with that. And Clingan, excellent rim protector. We have more than a few really good rim protectors in this draft. But Clingan, on the offensive side is still developing. Also, remember, a 60% free throw shooter. So, is it hack a Clingan at the end of the game if he's in the game? I mean, unless he's improving upon that. But certainly no question on the defensive side for them in Portland. A couple of others as we work through. There's so many different storylines in this. I do like what some of the other teams have done. Dalton Knecht from Tennessee, the shooter, going 17 to the Lakers. The Lakers desperately needing some scorers, right? And the thought was that this kid fell a little bit, and the reason is one of the things you don't see a lot. He's 23. It's kind of like that. The more you play basketball in college, the more it seems your stock may drop if you're not this 19 or 20-year-old that all of a sudden has this great talent. You're one of the lottery picks. Well, he's 23 years old, but the dude can knock it down. And that is something, Claudia, that the Lakers desperately needed, a guy who can knock down shots. So they think they got a good one when Dalton fell to them.
He feels like such a Lakers fit. And for those who didn't watch a ton of him in college, he came out of nowhere, dropping 40-point games after 35-point games. He was the first SEC player with back-to-back 35-point games since Shaq, the one and only Shaquille O'Neal. Speaking of storylines, though, one that was always fun. This is a family show, of course. One of the family members is in Japan, which I can't wait to see all those videos and pictures from GoJo. But Cody Williams, drafted by the Jazz 10th overall, he is looking forward to his first matchup against his brother. We love a brother-on-brother matchup there. Jalen Williams, his brother. When the Jazz take on the Thunder, take a listen.
Are you excited to go that matchup against your brother whenever you guys do play? Is this something you guys used to talk about when you were kids? And is there going to be any trash talk during that game between you two?
Most definitely. We're probably going to talk crazy during that game. I'm just going to let you know right now. But it's definitely something we dreamed about as kids. Obviously, we never really got to play against or with each other on the same team just because of the age difference. So I think being able to do that now is definitely a dream come true. And I'm going to make sure I'm matched up on him when we're playing them. I'm going to make sure, tell Will and put me on dub.
That's literally the ultimate dream for any little boy or girl. You go outside, you play with your brothers and sisters. To actually be able to play together in the NBA must be so cool, Senior.
So it's interesting when you have to play against your brother, because in basketball, obviously you can match up and play against. In football, like I played with the same time as my brother Bob, but we were both on defense, so we never really played against one another. Occasionally we were on the field together. He would be on the field goal block team and I'd be on the field goal team, but I was out in the end. He was always in the middle. We would just mess around pushing each other, but it never meant anything. But you look at a guy, the brothers I talk about that matched up in the NFL in my era were Bruce Matthews, who was my teammate with the Houston Oilers, who played all the positions, but at this point left tackle, and his brother Clay Matthews for the Cleveland Browns. So not only they play against each other, they played against each other twice a year. And you got to go, obviously, you got to go 100% and try and beat the guy in front of you, and it just happens to be your brother. So interesting dynamic when something like that happens. But the coolest thing is they both made it to the NBA. I mean, that's just got to be just such a dream come true for them. So we're getting a lot of guys, a lot of rookies making it to the NBA, another round today. So Emerson, obviously, there's going to be odds out there of Rookie of the Year. We had a Frenchman in Victor Wembanyama winning it this year. I would imagine the couple of Frenchmen that were taken 1 and 2 got to be near the top of to be favorites this time around.
Yeah, and you absolutely nailed that. Plus 350 and plus 450 there for that duo. But as for day 2, I actually believe that there could be more eyes on the day 2 draft today, Senior, than yesterday, and that's because of Bronny. I think people want to see, where is he going to go? Are the Lakers going to try to make some moves, get up, make sure they scoop him? It's clearly been said in the past, and talking LeBron, how much he wants to play with this kid. That is the number one storyline today, in my opinion. And maybe, just maybe, does another team try to be a little sneaky and say, oh, okay, LA, here we go. We're going to play our cards our way. We're going to draft him. I don't know. Listen, LeBron James, partner of DraftKings, I haven't seen him walking around the office yet. So if it means to get him in here, into this office, start carrying his weight, and the Celtics have to draft Bronny, and that means LeBron's going to make his way to Boston, do it. That's fine. So be it.
So I along those lines, we talked about that
He's
the
like,
other day, me and Mike. Well, and Mike brought up a good point, Emerson, so I wonder what your counterpoint to this is. We understand the power not only of basketball players in the league, but agents as well, right? And who's one of the most powerful right now? It would be LeBron's in Clutch Sports, right? Clutch Sports is representing Bronny. So do you want to be a team that messes around with this scenario and then knowing in the future you're going to have to deal with Clutch Sports because they have a lot of top players in the league? So is that a road that you're going to want to go down? Because I get what you're saying. Hey, draft him, get something for him, see what you can pull off. But would you do that knowing that you may, for lack of a better term, anger, a pretty big representative group in Clutch Sports and knowing you got to deal with them down the line?
No.
No.
No, you don't want to make. And I think the question is too. It's not even clutch sports. It's do you want to make LeBron James mad?
Yeah.
And even when that man leaves the league, he's going to have power over clutch sports. I'm sure to some degree. So yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it is more about LeBron here because LeBron is the first ever in NBA history, first ever active owner, GM, team president, player, agent. I mean, the guy is doing all of it right now. He's also the commissioner.
Remember back in the day, way back, even before my day, especially in baseball and some in basketball, you had kind of the player coach situation going on. That was pretty around a decent amount, years even before I was in professional sports. So now you don't technically have it in the modern day, even though kind of behind the scenes we know what LeBron James controls. So first round of the draft's in the books. We obviously have other notes still about that as well as we have a second round today. And I agree with you guys. Bronny James is going to definitely be the storyline of where he goes. But coming up next, the league keeps on churning out players. It's free agency time. There's trades going on. I think the Knicks are going to be really, really happy again with what they're about to do. The money is flying. Moves are being made outside the NBA draft involving some big names. We'll get to that next.
We're back here on GoJo and Golic, and the Knicks were hungry yesterday after getting Mikal Bridges from the Nets for a package of picks. They decided, let's continue this rolling. They did the next task of signing OG Anunoby to a 5-year, $212.5 million deal last night. Here's the Woj bomb during the NBA draft.
OG Anunoby, a 5-year, $212.5 million deal. That will include a player option on the last year, a trade kicker. This is the largest deal in Knicks history. And, his agents, Drew Morrison, Austin Brown, they had been talking with Leon Rose and the Knicks That certainly accelerated after the Mikal Bridges trade last night. And now the Knicks, they keep Anunoby off of the market, and they have perhaps the best defensive guard duo in the East. Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. We know what the goal in New York is now. Match up with the NBA champion Boston Celtics.
Well, Senior, they're second in the East. Now their odds down to plus 400 right behind Boston. Their odds to win it all now plus 850 down from 13-1. Do you think the odds should have shifted this much? Are they an actual threat to the Celtics at this point?
Well, I think they are, and I think you're going about it the right way. We'd see this in the NFL a lot in divisions, depending on what you had. There was a time, when the NFC North was going through having bigger wide receivers, like in Minnesota with a Randy Moss. So the answer would be, I remember hearing like D coordinators from Green Bay or the team picking bigger cornerbacks to match up, to find the matchup that you need to win in your situations. And that's what you have to do if you're gonna take on Boston, right? You got to be able to defend that perimeter, because Boston just whips that ball around and passes it so well to get those open shots. You have to be able to defend that. So I think they're going in the right direction. I can see the odds getting better, but I mean, obviously Boston is still going to be the heavy favorite here, but that's what you have to do. Every team in the East that wants to knock off Boston, because Boston's window is open for a little while, is see how Boston plays. And to me, the Boston weakness is going to be what's going on in the middle. Porzingis going to miss the start of the season next year already with the surgery. You got Al Horford, who we keep counting out, but keeps coming in and getting the job done. But he is going to be 38 years old. So there is the weakness there, I think, in the middle between injury and age. But you got to be able, Emerson, to defend that perimeter.
Yeah, that's a good point by you there, Senior, because the Knicks, we all know this, they're only going to go as far as Jalen Brunson takes them. But as the Celtics have proved during their run to winning Banner 18, the 2024 NBA title, depth and complementary pieces here, similar to Anunoby and Bridges, can make all the difference in the world. So neither one is going to really wow on the offensive end nightly, but both can be a threat. You had Bridges, who averaged 21 points a game over 2 seasons with the Nets. Anunoby posted more than 14 points in 23 games with the Knicks last season. So the pair's true value is going to lie with their versatility for sure.
Yeah, and the Knicks had picks 24 and 25 in the first round. They got a couple of shooting guards there as well. But I do love how you have to, we know this is a team we have to beat, and let's get players that are going to help us do that. I love the fact, how about Anunoby? If his player option was $19 million, okay? So you knew he was opting out of that. He went from possibly making $19 million on a player option to $42 million a year. $42 million a year, Claudia. That's going to do him pretty well.
And I mean, he deserves it. Once they brought him in, he made a clear impact on the team. So I think he deserves the money. But the question now on everyone's mind is, okay, you're checking off the boxes. What's the bank account looking like at this point, right? Because are you going to keep Julius Randle? He's a piece we haven't really talked about, a little banged up last season. Hartenstein, who we've been saying is sort of next on the checklist. You have these questions popping up. Yes, depth is the most important thing, but that's something the Celtics have to step back and look at as well, because you got to pay Derek White and Sam Hauser. So that's something the Knicks are going to have to look at now.
And this is Senior. This was a franchise, too, that was largely irrelevant. Everybody knows this. Struggling to draw talent like only a few years ago. So Anunoby possibly taking a discount here to come back means the Knicks, in my opinion, are a destination again for a lot of guys around the league.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, as the 2 seed, we see they're right there. They, though, again, do have some questions in the middle. They do have Mitchell, but Hartenstein may be gone. He may be a tough guy to hold on to. So their issues could be in the middle as well. But I do like what they did on the outside. And again, going from the possibility of $19 million to $42 million a year. Basketball is just so flush with money, with how much they're making and the smaller rosters. It's cool to see. Love seeing these guys getting paid. Speaking of getting paid, someone who's going to get offered the max, and maybe another team jumping into this one, Claudia, for a big-time star in the league.
Yeah, talking about trying to become competitive once again, the Warriors, who have seemed to fallen since winning their championship, their eyes are set on Paul George. Like you said, Senior, 4-year max contract at the start of free agency. This is according to Ryan Windhorst.
Golden State is big fish hunting. Remember, last trade deadline, they put a call in about LeBron James. They are sniffing around big deals. If Paul George is willing to leave, they would like to be an option for him. But any of these places that Paul would need to go via trade would have to get worked out with the Clippers and would have to get worked out by Saturday. The Clippers, I think, are in a position where they kind of want to call Paul's bluff that he would actually want to leave his hometown of LA.
So, of course, he has to want to go there. That's one side of it.
Right.
But also, I think the next question is, how much of an impact is he really going to have? Because we know he's a star. We know that he can be a star, but he's not a name that we've really talked about much, it feels like, over the last 2 years.
But this is one of those situations where you build because of what you have around you. Steph, listen, Steph is still a great player, but Steph's coming toward the end of his career as well. So if you want to rebuild and win again, you need immediate impact. And that's what Paul George can do, right? You know, he's going to step in. You know what you get from him. So it's kind of like what the Lakers are doing now when you get LeBron and now you added AD to that, obviously, but you build for each year. It's kind of like I said when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay. You build for that year, then you build for the next year. It's kind of Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. You got to build around it because you don't know how much longer it's going to last. So you get, ready talent, and Paul George is certainly that. Banking now on, and I've always said this, when a player has a choice, what do you choose? What's in your mind? And are you banking on it being his hometown? That's it's a risk you take to say we're going to play a little chicken here, right? We're gonna kind of hold off saying, does he really want to leave his hometown? And you don't know. A good card player is not going to give you any signals or anything. So I'm sure Paul George isn't going to do that, Emerson. But what a thing to have happen is maybe your team playing a little chicken saying, we're not sure you want to leave your hometown where, and I don't know Paul George. I don't know his intentions, but that would be interesting. You hang your hat on the fact that he doesn't want to leave there because it's his hometown.
Yeah. I mean, are we forgetting the Joel Embiid side eye, ahead of one of the NBA Finals games like a couple weeks ago? I still think Philadelphia could be a strong fit for the guy here. 7th consecutive playoff berth for the 76ers. This one is for you behind the scenes, Billy. But you have yet to advance past the second round during that stretch. So George could change that. If George makes his way to the 76ers, and he would join Joel Embiid, obviously, and Tyrese Maxey, and they would be able to develop a formidable core.
Yeah, I agree. And we had heard that had softened on Paul George of Philly. I don't know why. And then the other question, if you want to continue to build Golden State, I don't want to play the sound, just want to get a comment, is Klay Thompson. What everybody, it's amazing that we all want him back. Everybody in the organization, we want him back, but negotiations have stalled. So if you want him back, you want him back, but you want him back at your price, and that's negotiation, right? You want him back at your price. He probably wants more of a price. Then it's incumbent upon him, Claudia. Do I want to go somewhere else at this point?
Who do you think helps him more?
Someone who's not going to take me off the bench. I mean, that's the one thing too. Is the playing time going to be there for him? I think Paul George is going to make an immediate impact. I think the Sixers are more winning ready than the Warriors would be at this point. And I mean, the odds sort of show that too in the West. The Warriors are at 16-1, and we always talk about getting ahead of the market, Senior. I don't know how much that would shift if Paul George goes there.
I would agree with you. Even getting Paul George, I don't know how much that shifts because of the depth of the Western Conference. But coming up next, let's talk. Well, we'll talk still NBA, but we'll look in on Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks and what the 76ers are possibly doing to compete with both the Knicks and the Celtics next year. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. I'm Mike Golic Sr. My son GoJo not here. He's off gallivanting around the world in different places right now. Claudia and Emerson are keeping it together here for me, helping me out here. But right now we're going to go. Basketball is the topic. The first round of the draft was yesterday. Second round will be today. First time it was ever a 2-day draft. Talking a lot about the foreign players in the draft, but even before the draft, we've had some moves being made. So we want to bring in 76ers insider Devon Givens joining us now here on GoJo and Golic. Devon, appreciate the time this morning. And I guess let me start there. I want to get into the Sixers. Also, your cousin, Mikal Bridges, now with the Knicks. So that an incredible move by them. But we talked at the top of the show of the influx, especially the French players in the draft, but also foreign players. You've been covering this game for a while and just seeing more and more of the foreign players, not only in the draft, but taking over the top of the draft.
Yeah, and at some point, Mike, you just thought that somewhere at one point that they really started to take over years ago. And when was it going to slow down a little bit? But, you know, with the outreach that they've had with the NBA, going over to all these different countries and really having these grassroots programs, including with the NBA, partner with the NBA, you see so many young, talented players. And as you talked about, from Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, there's so many players that we can sit here and just go through and even talk about them as being some of the top, the all NBA level players, MVP conversation players. And as we were doing our show last night for the draft, top 6 guys, French players, and that was a first, because you just don't see that, even with the influx of those players years ago. We started to see so many funnel through the American game. But that being said, even just sitting back and watching some of the players last night and discussing how Nikola Topic and some of the other young players would speak about how much Luka Doncic has meant to them, and giving them some hope that they can do exactly what he has done and have an impact on the NBA. So it was very interesting to see that. It's tough, of course, while even with streaming and so much where you can watch some of these games, Euro basketball and all, it is still tough to catch up on their games as much. So you rely on some of the even more experts and some of the highlights just to see what type of players they are. And of course, wait until we see Summer League and then the regular season. But some really talented young players coming in.
4 French players taken in the first round, 9 foreign players overall in the first round, and the last 6 MVPs of the league were all overseas. Quickly, before I get to your cousin end of the 76ers, with all this overseas talent we're talking about, do you think Team USA struggles at all getting the gold this year in the Olympics?
I think they will be challenged for sure, but I do like the team. I wish there was a few more younger players, but look, with Anthony Edwards, a big part, having been a part of the team last year for Team USA, still a decent mixture. Tyrese Halliburton now adding Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers, his first time. And then you do have to have that experience, which they will have with Kevin Durant, and now having LeBron James, Stephen Curry being a part of it as well, Devin Booker. So I do think they would struggle because, as we just talked about, the talent pool is so good. But I do think that they will prevail in the end.
Yeah, certainly hope they do. We've seen it off and on that the great players not go thinking we're good, and then we end up losing. So top players end up going
right
to get the gold back again. Again, your cousin, Mikal Bridges, he gets traded into the Knicks. The Knicks making these moves to try and best Boston in the East. So I don't know if you've spoken with him or not after this, but your overall thoughts of what the Knicks are doing to try and get ahead of Boston.
Yeah, I spoke to him briefly. It was very brief. I was at a show that night, Mike, when it happened. So as I'm enjoying the show, it was a concert in South Philly, as you well know, where the complex is. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there and the show's going on, and I get a text, and then my phone just starts blowing up. So I text back with his dad first, my cousin, and we just sent some laughing emojis just because that was all we needed to say. And then I text Mikal as well, but he was really busy, got back to me the next morning. And he's happy about what's happening, as you may have seen a little bit on social media. But the Knicks are not messing around. They've tasted some of that success. Of course, they got to that Game 7 against Indiana. Unfortunately for them, the Jalen Brunson injury, the OG Anunoby injury as well, really knocked them down, and not having Julius Randle. But seeing Boston win the championship, knowing that for the last few seasons, and including this season, that the wings are so good in today's game that you need as many wings as possible to defend and try to slow those down. And when you have offense like Jalen Brunson and can still score with Mikal, OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, assuming that he's still a part of the basketball team, that they can be really, really good. And you know that a Tom Thibodeau team really lives and breathes with the defense first. That'll lead to the offense. They don't have a problem scoring, I don't think. So with that, they put together a really good team. And right now, you do have to consider them as a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference.
It's amazing you forget Julius Randle. Oh, yeah. was on that team because he
two-time All-Star.
Exactly. So we keep talking about the East. Boston at the top. There's obviously New York. There's Milwaukee. We see Cleveland getting better. Orlando eventually getting better. The Pacers as well. And then there's the 76ers with Joel Embiid. You're trying to make hay while you have him, even though there's been some injuries. Tyrese Maxey's becoming a real star in this league. So what we saw that they picked, 16th, took Jared McCain. We talk about him from Duke if we want, but more of this team and what else, Devon, that they need to do to be in that upper echelon and compete while they have Joel Embiid still.
Well, currently they only have 4 players on the roster: Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul Reed, and Ricky Council IV. So they have to build out the roster. And what it seems like they want to do is to add a wing. As we just talked about with Mikal and OG Anunoby there in New York, making sure that you can go up against Boston with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The Sixers showed a few seasons ago in the postseason, which is really, really tough for a lot of people to still swallow, myself included, with that Game 6 in the playoffs in 23, where they dropped the ball up 3-2, losing in Game 7 in Boston. Boston wound up not winning the NBA championship that year. Denver did take that one. But it was the fact that the Sixers continue to let these opportunities pass them by. And now in this offseason, again, wing help, wing depth is something that they really need. And they were trying to provide that with a third star. You heard the Paul George conversation, Jimmy Butler in the mix a little bit. They're still unclear how that's going to play out, similar to Paul George. But do you pivot to Brandon Ingram? OG Anunoby is now off the table. Mikal Bridges traded to the New York Knicks. Where do you go? And right now, Sixer fans are very frustrated because they've heard their names in so many, but you're starting to see some of these dominoes fall and these big names go off the board, and they're not coming to Philadelphia. So they need wing help. They need depth. They need secondary ball handling. And Jared McCain may provide some of that as a young player, but there's still a lot to learn from him in this particular system with Nick Nurse, Tyrese Maxey, 6'2". How are you going to play those two players together? So right now it's unclear, and they need to really, they have a game plan, Mike, but at what point when we get to Sunday, when 6 p.m. hits and the names start to drop off the board, is there a big name? Is there a trade? Was Jared McCain drafted last night to be sent elsewhere with that 16th overall pick? It's unclear right now, and I think that's a big issue for where we are currently. We weren't going to have all the answers on draft night. However, you would have liked to have heard something, especially with some of these names falling off.
Yeah, the process is done in Philly. There's no more the process. It's now. They need to win now.
3 years ago for me, Mike.
How about it? So true. We only got about a little less than a minute. Would you make the hard move for Paul George or Jimmy Butler? Is that the route you'd go?
I would make a hard move for Paul George or Jimmy Butler. Yes, I think it's going to be very difficult for the Jimmy Butler piece, and now Paul George may be opting in, also may make it tough. I would also take a peek at that Brandon Ingram trade potentially, because of you may not have to give up as many assets as the Jimmy Butler part.
Gotcha. All right, Devon, appreciate it very much. Get yourself it's a little early, a little cheesesteak. I know you're not a Geno's or Pat's guy. That's the commercialism, right? You probably have another favorite spot for.
So make sure you school everybody on that when they come to town, Mike. That's not happening.
I definitely will. All right, Devon, appreciate it very much, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
It's always the interesting thing, guys, is people say, "Oh, Geno's or Pat's." Well, when you live there, it's just it's not that. You always find your other hideaway place that makes a great Philly cheesesteak. I always love that, especially on away games when we take a bunch of them on the plane. So we'll see what Philly does. We'll see what direction they go to try and compete with the Celtics, with the Knicks, and others in the Eastern Conference. But coming up next, we switch over to college football. Brand new head coach at UCLA, former running back at UCLA, takes over as an alum, takes over the program. We talk to him next on the move to the Big Ten.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. UCLA, one of the teams you can find at the DraftKings Sportsbook when it comes to win totals. We also have a market for alt win totals, but this is the regular line set for them heading into the Big Ten. 5.5 is the line set. The under is juice, so 5 wins expected. Golic Senior caught up with DeShaun Foster, head coach of UCLA, to break down the upcoming senior. We missed you, Gojo.
Really honored now to be joined by the new head coach of the UCLA Bruins, DeShaun Foster. Wow. Have you gotten used to that yet, being a player there, player in the NFL, assistant coach at UCLA, now the head coach of your alma mater?
It's still, I'm still getting used to it, because somebody asked me the other day what my position was, and I said running back. So I'm still getting used to it.
As far as the whole coaching thing, you finished playing in 08 and you started coaching in 13. What was that? Was the intention to always get into coaching? It took a little while to get there, but was that always the intention?
No, I actually started in 12, but no, that wasn't the intentions. I was just coming back to finish my undergrad, and then I was thinking about law school. And then Coach Fields, he was our AD, and that's who recruited me to UCLA, Bobby Fields. And he was like, if you're going to be on campus, just come be on the team. And then I figured out that I could teach, and then it took off from there.
And in the coaching world, now you certainly haven't had to move a lot. You've been there and then obviously at Texas Tech for the year and then back. So you really haven't had that nomadic life yet as a coach when you look at their Wikipedia page and they're moving all over the place. So, but you were, what's interesting here is, listen, the whole Chip Kelly thing caught a lot of us by surprise, leaving there to go be the OC at Ohio State. But you had taken a job to maybe take that step to the next level as a running back coach for the Raiders. And then a week later, here was this opportunity. So kind of take us through that time frame and how that roller coaster went.
I was presented an opportunity to support one of my friends, Antonio Pierce. So I was fired up for that. I had turned down a few NFL jobs before, but, just being able to help him with his journey and vision, and just, and one of my goals to make it to the NFL, I just couldn't pass that by. And then, Coach Kelly ends up taking the Ohio State offensive coordinator job, and then UCLA calls and I come back home. So, it was a true blessing. I was a Raider for about 3 days.
The one thing I always like to ask a first-time head coach is, you're an assistant, you deal, whether you're a coordinator, you're running backs, dealing with your players, answering questions about your specific stuff. And then one day you're in the big chair. Now all the questions, everything comes to you. Tell me about that first day sitting in the big chair, being the head coach, of just how surreal that was.
It's I couldn't imagine doing this not having the connection to UCLA, because it could have been over, but being that I had been here, I went here, I've coached here a few years, the transition wasn't that bad, but it was still something to get used to. You're just dealing with a lot more stuff. As a position coach, you're kind of locked in your lane, and you kind of just make sure you keep all that stuff together. Like being the head man, everything, academics, the dorms, nutrition. There's just so much stuff that that's on your plate daily.
So it's interesting. Some of your players speaking up about you. You had Jaden Hudson talking about you and saying that you're going to turn UCLA around, having such positive things to say about you, like the way you're treating the players and everything. Why are they saying that? I guess I would say is, what are you doing that is bringing them together?
I'm just letting them meet me. I'm just being genuine and truly allowing them to meet me. I don't really have a sales pitch. I'm not a car salesman. I can't sell you too much of anything other than UCLA football. So I stand on that. Like the kids say, I keep it 100 with them. And I think it just resonates and goes far with them.
Well, I want to throw this out. Speaking of UCLA football, single game tickets go on sale today, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Season tickets and mini plans are already available. Fans can purchase tickets at Bruins.com. tickets. So that's a cool thing. I'm sure, listen, when there's a change and you're looking to move the program forward, albeit in a different conference, which we're gonna get to, I'm sure there's got to be a lot of excitement there. Before we get to the new conference, another thing you have to deal with, even as an assistant, but then certainly as a head coach, and certainly something that wasn't around when you played in college, is NIL and the portal. So kind of give me the way you deal with talking to recruits or portal guys dealing with the NIL and how UCLA approaches it.
We're in a great market, so if you want to market yourself and really capitalize off your brand, this is the place that you can do that. Being in Los Angeles is one of the biggest markets out, and being in college in Los Angeles, you're not really in a college town, you're in Los Angeles. A few of my guys take advantage of it and they're still able to focus on football. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. There's NIL out there and some of these kids really want to capitalize on it and some don't. But, we're going to help you if you want to, we're going to help you if you don't. We're still.
And it's adapt or die. That's how it has to be. But you were also coaching before NIL. And so how soon does it come up when you're sitting in living rooms talking about, wanting this player to come play for you and how you want them to be a part of UCLA? And when they're asking questions, how soon, or does it happen a lot now that, hey, what about the NIL? Does that come up in these conversations?
They kind of just want to know the plan, but it comes up right away. It's not it's kind of like an elephant in the room. We're going to just talk about it, get it out of the way, and then that's the rest of the question. People have the right to ask, and they should. If you want to know what's going on, this is like you said, it's the nature of the business right now. So they have the right to understand exactly what's going on.
I know football is football just about everywhere, but as we know, in different conferences are known for different types of style of ball. How does that come into play of Pac-12 ball, what you've been used to, now going into the Big Ten? Not saying one is better than the other, but they can be different. So is it a shift in philosophy on going into that conference in the style you have to play? Or is it just, hey, this is who we are and what we're going to do?
This is who we are. This is what we got to do. There's, I know weather's going to play a part, late in the season. So that's going to change a little bit of people's game plans and stuff. But the type of game that we're going to play should be good.
As far as, I guess, what overall, when everybody, say you take on the personality of your head coach, what's their style? What is DeShaun Foster's style going to be as a head coach? What are you going to preach to the players?
It's mostly just my pillars: discipline, respect, and enthusiasm. You should be able to just cut on the tape and see that from our players, see what type of guys we have, resilience, guys that's going to run to the fight. And I'm just looking forward to the season.
So last one, you had a player. Now I know you were on the offensive side coaching, but certainly you've seen what Laiatu Latu did, and he was the first defensive player taken in the draft in the first round to the Colts. Give everybody, and especially Colts fans, a little thumbnail on what they're getting.
Just a kid that's a young man, but not a kid.
Yeah,
he's just somebody that's very talented. Work ethic is through the roof. Not going to say much, but you're really going to fail him out there on Sunday. And he's a consistent kid. I just love his makeup. Football was taken away from him, and he plays the game like that. You can see that. He's truly blessed, and he understands that. You never know when your last play is. So he plays like his hair's on fire.
Well, DeShaun, your timeline is great. Playing at UCLA, playing in the NFL for a bunch of years, assistant coach at UCLA, and now the head coach at your alma mater. All is going well there. So best of luck to you as you start your first season there, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Welcome back, Hour 2, GoJo and Golic. I'm Mike Golic Sr. GoJo not here. He is out and about doing a little cross-country travel for about 10 days.
Is that cross-country?
I know.
It's cross-world.
Sorry, cross-world in Tokyo. That's my fault. He had
to cross the country to get, he was with you, and then it's fine. We get it.
Yeah, he did a lot of flying. Thanks for trying to bail me out of my stupidity, but it's just on me. I have no problem wearing the hat.
Japan's not just like, let me take an Uber there.
Yeah. Emerson Latia and Claudia Bellafato in the studio there in Boston. We're all hanging out, starting Hour 2, but I think we should start it the same way we started Hour 1. I'm still waiting for, you know what I don't know? What time is it in Tokyo right now? Let's see. I don't know, if we'll hear from him. I haven't even looked on Twitter to see if he's done any tweets. The one thing they said, which I couldn't do, is he was told the last half of this flight, he should try and stay awake to try and get into the time change. And I can't do it. There's no way I can do that. I'm on a plane that long, and if you tell me, hey, you need to stay awake, first thing I'm going to do is fall asleep.
Yeah.
Not even close.
100%. And I will have you know, Senior, I wished him a great time, and he texted me a picture of his screen and said he's raw dogging the flight.
No way.
Emerson, I don't know if you the raw dogging phenomenon, the no headphones, no nothing. But we know GoJo. He's gonna grab every snack that comes down. He's gonna grab a drink, watch his anime. Yeah.
And usually on those really long flights too, at least when I've flown JetBlue, they have their own little mini pantries throughout.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, where you can go up and grab snacks when you want. Grab little seltzer drinks when you want. And that is perfect. And yes, guys like GoJo use and abuse that system more than anybody else.
As he should.
As well they should. That raw dogging, which again, you got to think of a different name because that name is,
you used it 5 times yesterday, Senior.
I mean.
You know what I am hoping, though, for GoJo when he's in Japan? I want some food reviews. He always does, the Oreo.
He has to deliver in that
department. There must be some
department.
Awesome food out there.
That's his brand. Plus, that's where, in Japan, is where they have, the off normal flavors of foods.
Yeah.
I've had wasabi Kit Kats. They also have different flavor Oreos. I think they have a hot dog flavored Oreo.
That's disgusting, but
wait, a hot dog flavored Oreo?
I've seen pictures. I don't know if it's AI or real, but I like to think and pray that it's real. Yeah,
wow.
The cream is red.
No.
Okay, I don't know about that. I guess when in Rome or when in Tokyo, kind of deal with it. We will see, but hopefully he's out having a good time. Hopefully he made it through the flight, and I'm going to say he slept. And the raw dogging thing, again, for those that weren't around, we talked about yesterday, there are people that don't wear headphones, don't eat, don't get up. You get bonus points if you don't go to the bathroom, if you just stare at that screen in front of you that shows the plane going from point A to point B. Dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. The social media world, this is where we're idiotic. There can be good things in social media and then stuff like this, which is just pure stupidity on who would do anything like this. So I'm done wasting any more time talking about that. I want to get to a little bit of the NFL, but first the NBA draft. This is the first year. We have 2 days. We had the first round yesterday, and we have the second round 4:00 Eastern today. And the big name there is going to be Bronny James. We'll get to that, and also some other odds of picks at the top of the second round. But guys, I really think the story, or part of the story of the first round, is the number of foreign players and overseas players. Now, this isn't a new phenomenon, as we've said. The last 6 MVPs have been overseas, but from the French side of it, there were 4 Frenchmen taken in the first round. In the last 2 drafts, in the top 7 picks of the last 2 drafts, 5 have been Frenchmen. So, in the first 2 in this draft, Richeche and Sarr going to the Atlanta Hawks. And why am I drawing a blank on the how horrible is that?
Oh, I just had it up.
The
Looking at best
How
available.
bad is that?
Hawks and Washington.
Wizards. The Wizards. Yeah, the Wizards. Yeah. Well, sometimes they're forgettable. So are the Wizards.
This draft was overall, Senior. I think that's what you're hitting on, and you're right. Which day 2 can be exciting. You mentioned it, 4 p.m., so it's earlier, people. You don't have to stay up late to watch the draft. So some French names not at the top of this board, because we sort of knew those Frenchmen were going to be off the top. They were the favorites to go. those two at the top. Johnny Furphy out of Kansas, though. These are the best available coming up. Kyle Filipowski out of Duke, who we said fell a bit. Tyler Golic out of Marquette. And you can still bet. Not every book will have markets out, but DraftKings does still have it. So 31st overall, that would be the first pick of day 2. Kyle Filipowski is the favorite there, plus 175. Furphy, 220, and Golic. So those 3 names that you may be familiar with because of college basketball, not necessarily from France. Those guys are at the top of the board for this day 2. And you mentioned Bronny, which we did have a market on, senior, but no longer. And that could be, a bunch of things, of course, because we had day 1, but also most people assume he's going 55 to the Lakers.
Yeah, I've got some of the splits right here. Producer Drew just dropped it into our document here. So Lakers were minus 135, very heavy favorites to draft Bronny. So they had 67% of the handle and 35% of the bets at DraftKings Sportsbook. So after that, after the Lakers, the Suns were plus 700. They got 7% of the handle and 9% of the bets.
All right, so do we think Bronny's going to the Lakers? Do we think that's a done deal?
Yeah.
It's tough for me to talk myself into anyone but LA taking him because I really don't think other franchises are interested enough in him as a fringe guy here. I kind of wish that he would have taken more of the scenic route at USC and had a stronger sophomore season instead of being kind of shoehorned into the league. But I don't know if any other franchise outside of LA is going to think that this guy, and you made this point earlier, senior, that any other teams out there believe he's going to be worth the hassle and the headache. So I do think it's the Lakers right now at 55 or bust, or unfortunately both, which could easily happen.
Yeah, it will be interesting. We had Jay Billis on yesterday, and Jay Billis had the interesting scenario of covering LeBron James high school games, and then the actual first draft Jay Billis covered for ESPN was the LeBron draft, and then he had to cover Bronny's high school games as well. So A, that shows about an incredible family of the James, and B, how long Jay Billis has been covering basketball at ESPN. And I heard him yesterday talk about Bronny, saying, listen, he's a good player, but going to need time to develop. He thought probably a year or 2 in the G League, which is going to be interesting because, Clutch Sports had talked about they don't want any two-ways contracts with him. But, I mean, he's obviously he knows he's got to earn a spot onto the roster. So will it be some developmental time? We will see. We will see what happens today. Again, 4 Eastern. Claudia, I'm with you. I'm glad it's earlier. It'll be done early. You don't have to worry about staying up late. Or anything like that. So I'm good with that as well. So as we said, second round today. Do your thing on that. If you wanted some of the odds that Claudia gave you at the top of the second round, you want to dive into that, so be it. Let's shift over, Claudia, though, to the NFL and some of the happenings there.
Yes, Panthers and one other team, Emerson, is
America's
getting a new
team.
stadium.
Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, I feel like this is wrong for me to intro this because it is the Jags. The Jags are getting a new stadium. Emerson's team of America, as he says. Spending, though, $1.4 billion with a B dollars to build this new stadium. Should be done by 2028.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
But why so much? This better be the best stadium ever, man.
It's the stadium of the future. Of course it's going to be the best stadium ever. This comes a week after Trevor Lawrence signs his extension. This is exactly what the people of Jacksonville deserve and need. The future looks bright in Jacksonville. So I was reading a little bit more about it. The 2026 season. All right, so here's the timeline for this thing because it's a little weird, and the Jags are going to have to play at a temporary stadium at some point. So right now the Jags plan to spend, senior, the 24 and 25 seasons at Everbank Stadium. That is where the team has played under various names since 1995. The 2026 season is going to be played at Everbank, but a limited capacity of just a tick under 44,000. And then they're going to have to play at an alternate venue, still to be determined, for the 2027 season before making the debut in the new arena in 2028. This is massive. All you little Jags going to London people can shut the hell up now. Stop hating. Embrace the Jags, the future in Jacksonville. A Super Bowl will be played in Jacksonville. I mean, maybe the Jags aren't in that, but after the stadium is, and the Jags will win a Super Bowl in the next 6 years. You heard it here first.
Yeah, Jacksonville hosted a Super Bowl 1 year. And
it was terrible. Good. It was a mess. There's a reason they haven't had it since then. But Con and the commitment to the city and the money here, and it's going to bring up the infrastructure around the town. If the city ever lost, any NFL city ever lost its team, like that's devastating for a local economy. This is huge, though, man. And it felt like November 30th, 1993. All over again for me. I still remember being in the kind of the playhouse section of my home, listening on a radio when they said, Jacksonville, we did it. We got a team. And that level of joy was burning in my loins the other day when this was announced.
Okay. All right. That's something we don't want to picture at all. Yeah, that was one of the first jobs I had, Emerson, was I was the first color commentator for the preseason games for Jacksonville when they came in the league in 1995. Tony Baselli, the first pick there. Awesome. Tom Coughlin, the coach. It was pretty exciting. So in this case, between them and the Panthers, Carolina Panthers, in Jacksonville, the city is putting up $625 million. In Charlotte, the people there, taxpayers, $650 million. And that's one thing we always hear of, Claudia, is, the infrastructure, how it's going to help the city, the money coming back. And I still have never seen it. I've never seen it, right? All this is going to help pay for new roads and all that. I've never seen it. We always hear it. That's why owners always try and hold cities hostages, saying it's going to be so good for you. And a lot of times cities end up giving in and giving the taxpayers, money to them. But I don't think I ever see, the positive side for the city.
Damn, Senior. You're right. So many empty promises after all these years. Wouldn't they have figured it out by now? You're not fooling anybody.
I mean, billionaires are rich for a reason. They kind of know what they're doing. They know how to navigate that.
And I will agree with you, Emerson. Mike and I, and I have with others as well, have gotten into the discussion. It's a broader discussion of the globalization of the NFL, playing all over the world. Now, playing all over the world and being stationed in, overseas are two different things. I love when they have games all over the place because it's so popular and always sells out. But we always talked about, could there be a team, i.e. Jacksonville, and or a division in the NFL that would be in London? That would be the place, right? Because basically from the East Coast, it's a 5-6 hour flight, which is kind of what it is from the East Coast to the West Coast. So it's not absurd travel that you have to work around. But I have been steadfast in saying that this will never happen. This will never, ever, forgetting a division, but a team going over there for the players and the CBA, what you do with the family and school. I just think, Emerson, there are way, way too many hurdles to jump over for this to ever happen. And now with the new stadium and how long they're going to be in Jacksonville, I'm with you. I think that puts kind of the nail in the coffin of thinking you're going to have a team in London.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. And we've gotten into that debate on this show where I believe it's GoJo who says, no, I think there's going to be a team eventually stationed somewhere overseas, but could not disagree more with them there. I'm very excited. If you've seen the renderings, it's going to be a fixed roof over the stadium. There is a reason when I go back for a game or two each year, I don't do the first month or two of the season because it is so hot and disgusting there. You're sliding off your seat. You saw Miami do it down there at Hard Rock Stadium. I was living in West Palm at the time, and when they started to, one season they had renovations, didn't have the full canopy over yet. That was one of the most miserable experiences of my life, going down to those games. And then they bring in the canopy and you have shade. It makes such a difference. People look at the stadium at the start of those games in Jacksonville and Miami, or the start, at early first quarter, second quarter, with so many empty seats. Dude, it feels like it's 200 degrees there in that stadium.
Okay, so they're investing in the team, right?
Yep.
And I know you cover this team closely because it's your home team. And Senior, I'm curious what you think on their offseason moves as well. You talked about them paying Trevor Lawrence. I'm looking at their win total now. 8.5 it's set at to win the AFC South, plus 275.
I thought it was 9.5.
Is that a good bet? I mean, so it's 8.5 right now, the over minus 110. We have the alt lines Over 10.5, you can get plus 260, but there's no 9.5. So 8.5 is the line set. So it sounds like you like 9 wins.
Yeah, I really do. And we're going to be talking to Field Yates on our weekend show, The Sweat, this weekend on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit more about the Jaguars, but I do feel like they have made moves in this offseason. Last year, there were injuries on the offensive line. It was one of the worst offensive lines statistically. Center was the worst center, and I think he ranked 33 out of 32 centers. Like, that's almost mathematically impossible to do. Trevor Lawrence battled through massive injuries. Christian Kirk had that long stretch where when he was out, the entire offense changed. So they went and selected a wide receiver at LSU in the first round. The offensive line now is much stronger, especially those guards in that center spot. This will be a team that will bounce back this year and look a lot like that team that won the 8 out of the last 9 games, came back from that 28-0 hole against the Chargers in the playoffs 2 years ago.
I think you have to look at the division as well. Tennessee, Will Levis still working on a new quarterback there, and some of the changes, including head coach. The Colts, you're getting Anthony Richardson back, who looked good but barely played before he got hurt. So we have to see how he develops. And then you have the Texans that surprised everybody. But we get it every year. We get at least 4 teams that didn't make the playoffs make the playoffs. Can they do it again? Now the expectation is for them to be there after getting 10 wins. And then there's Jacksonville. Listen, I go over as well on that. I think it's between Jacksonville and Houston. We'll see what Anthony Richardson can bring to that team. But I definitely like them and the over in that situation, Emerson.
Senior, you look at the quarterbacks in that division. I kind of jokingly tweeted about it like last year, but really, that could be the quarterback heavy division. Let me rephrase that here. That is the division of the future in the NFL. With those quarterbacks right there, it could arguably be here in the next few years the toughest division in football, going from the laughing stock in the NFL, the AFC South, to the supreme division that nobody wants to play a single team in that division.
Well, there's definitely going to be parity in it, too, because you mentioned all the teams, Senior, and you're talking about the quarterbacks. The Texans are the favorite at plus 105, but Jags plus 275, Colts plus 310. The Titans are far away, but, I mean, there is going to be some sort of parity there, and you could say that you see value, with the Jags or maybe the Colts, because Anthony Richardson, the little that we did see from him, Senior, he could have a true breakout.
Field Yates has him 3rd overall on his top 10 fantasy quarterback rankings right now. A guy who played 4 games.
Because what do you have? 4 rushing touchdowns, and he could lead the team in rushing.
We're definitely going on potential there, no doubt about it. But it certainly looks to have that. So, Emerson, quickly, we have the VSiN NFL betting guide that's coming out. So, why don't you fill people in on that, where they can get all that great info, great picks, great info on all the teams coming into this year.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to do that right now, Senior. That was a great question. Thank you kindly
Didn't have
for
it up,
that.
did you?
Yes, I did.
You got it?
Yes, I did.
I got it. Yeah, the guide includes.
I'm going to let you take this one.
NFL, baby, it is coming. The guide includes in-depth profiles of every team, advanced stats, proven betting systems, and betting trends. Best bets on season win totals. We just broke down one, futures, and props. Visit VSiN.com/guide to get your copy of our all-new NFL betting guide today. We're going to check out a few. Do we have time? Well, we got a minute 30. We didn't really talk about the Panthers. To have the fewest wins. That's the market we're talking about with this squad, guys.
Yes.
Plus 550.
Yeah, and how
do we like that?
Let's not forget, they're getting a new stadium here too, Senior. These are the 2 teams that came in 95 together, and by the time 96 rolled around, they're both in their respective conference championship games, which Panthers losing to the Packers and the Jags losing to the Patriots, and then the Packers winning the Super Bowl.
We got to see the biggest jump with Bryce Young. Again, he didn't have a lot of tools around him. He was kind of left to his own devices, of which, all rookie quarterbacks need to grow. So we'll see how much he grows and how well they built around him. I think a lot of people think a team like Chicago really built well around their incoming rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. So, I still see Carolina with a very, very low win total and a very, very high pick again next year. So, that VSiN betting guide is out there. Make sure you take a look at that. You can get a lot of great info. We're going to stay in football coming up next from both the college side and the NFL side. A couple of NFL rule changes, including we're going to see a way different kickoff and how that may affect some players in the NFL. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Sr. here. My son, Mike Golic Jr. is out and about across the world, traveling, enjoying himself for the next 10 days. Emerson, Claudia, helping me through the day. And even with their help, I screw up. Last segment, I kind of teased over football. We have Will Blackman coming up, former NFL player, former Jacksonville Jaguar for a bit there. Emerson, now a senior defensive analyst for Boston College. We're going to talk some football, but that's coming up in the next segment. And as I was talking with you both, you know, over the years I've done this. When I make a mistake, I rarely care anymore because I make so many of them. I just kind of laugh at myself and move on. I mean, what are you going to do, right? I'm like, oops, sorry, but the clock keeps counting to the next segment. So, you know, we'll go to the thing we were supposed to do. We just had our Golic Family Foundation, our Subpar Classic here at Notre Dame. So many people came out for it. We appreciate it. We raised a lot of money as well. But we also, Mike and I did a few things on the side to have a little bit of fun. And one of the things we did was we played a little game. You'll see kind of a picture word type of thing. We call it course words from the Golic Subpar Classic.
Ooh, under par. It's under par.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all in the hips.
Oh my God.
Oh! Ooh. Oh, scratch golfer.
No, it's not scratch. Is that scratch golfer?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Am I even here?
Oh my God.
Hold on one.
That one. I'm proud of you.
Set him up on that?
You needed that one.
Hold on. Yeah, I got that.
Oh.
In for a birdie.
Ooh. In for birdie? Chip in for birdie. Oh! Wow, that's a really clever one right there.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
I'm gonna give you that one.
Off the green?
Could I suck any more? In the rough. Okay. Wow. What the hell is that?
Caddyshack?
Oh my God, that's really good.
That's a dangerous game. Dangerous game. Dangerous game right there, folks. Run you over?
Bump and run.
Ooh, wow.
Okay.
Damn, that was a tricky one.
That was probably the hardest one yet.
That was. People are saying 4 over par.
4 over par? How do you get 4 over par? 4-course meal. Even
4 over?
4 over?
Par for the course? Oh, wow.
How is that par?
I have no idea.
Donuts. We getting fed? Donut? Donut hole.
Donut hole.
Tea.
Donut tea. Breakfast ball. Wow, that's a great hit. Honestly, I owe some beer.
That was my favorite one, quite honestly.
Yeah, it is.
What the hell?
Eyeball.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Wow. Woo! I mean, I feel like I kind of lobbed that one. That was sort of a team effort.
Whatever. I got it.
Last one.
It's a point for me.
Archer and karate. Arrow karate.
And there's 2 of them.
Yeah. Double bogey?
How is that double bogey? How is that? Explain how that's.
I don't even know.
You right now, explain to me how that's double bogey.
I want you guys to explain to me what that was.
Gi is the
Key, okay.
Oh, wow.
And 2 of them double bogey.
Which is the thing I definitely knew when I said that answer. Let's not lose sight of the fact that I beat your whole ass in that.
You did. You beat me
but
pretty good there.
That was one of the craziest hits I've ever seen.
I could have stood here till they kicked us off this green, and I wouldn't have got that.
I was a black belt in Taekwondo when I was a kid, too. I should have known that.
Yeah, you were. Only because your instructor wanted a BMW to keep us paying the fee.
He got it then.
That was pretty cool. That was fun. Cool. I'm horrible at that, but I'm glad I got a couple.
Course words
were
fun.
Embarrassed
I like
myself.
that game.
Senior, what happened?
Course
Come on, man.
Coarse words at the Golic Subpar Classic. Listen, I'm horrible at that stuff, guys. Like when like license plates have numbers and letters that have meaning to it, I am horrible at figuring that stuff out. So when we started this game, I knew I was in trouble. My brain just doesn't work fast enough to connect the things.
You did good. We're proud of you, Senior.
Yeah.
You tried.
You know, fun fact, when I first got a car when I was 16, an old Jeep, the license plate my mom put on it read Mr. Butt. I'm not kidding you. I swear to God, I still have it because my mom's like, you're always a butt. And so I immediately, within days, had that change because I was so embarrassed driving to high school and everyone honking and being like, hey, Mr. Butt. Hey, Mr. Butt. I said, God damn, Mom.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Your mom is the OG for that one.
Kind of fits, though, quite honestly.
It kind of does, yeah. Thanks, Dad.
Should have kept it. All right, Claudia, we had a story a couple of days ago, the Texas A&M baseball coach, Jim Schlossnagle, who had his presser after they lost to Tennessee, just ripping a reporter for a question that he asked, legitimate question. Hey, rumors about you going to Texas. You know, what can you say about that? And Jim just went off on him, I talked about the love for Texas A&M. He's here to coach, left his family to coach, blah, blah. And we can say blah, 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 blah.
Well, we have the sound, Senior. We have the original sound for people who may not have heard it. We should,
All right.
Let's take a listen to that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. That's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question, but I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. So write that.
So how dare you, he says. I poured my heart and soul. I'll never go anywhere else. And then a day later, he goes where? To Texas. And now he has this apology.
When the game ended, I want to publicly apologize to Richard Zane from TexAgs. He's a young reporter. He asked the question. That was an obvious question. I wish I could have answered that better. But in the moment, 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players. And I really wasn't in the mood to talk about myself or the future. So I apologize for that to Richard.
Senior.
Well, I mean, listen, I get emotion after a game. I do understand that. But you also know going into that, you're going to be asked that. So you damn well better prepare for that. I actually had somebody I worked with at ESPN tweet out there, well, what was he supposed to say? And I tweeted back a hell of a lot of something different than what he did say. He could have easily got by that one without actually going at the reporter. So I'm glad he did, apologize. Now, what everybody will do, Emerson, as we know, break down the apology. Was it sincere? Did he feel like he had to do it? But I just love the fact the first interview he's in his Texas A&M gear, and the second interview he's at his presser for the new job at Texas. Just amazing.
Dude, he said he apologized multiple times, and another to his now former team. He said, there's a lot of times in life you don't get to choose the timing. You don't get to meet with your team like you would like. For that, I am sorry, except he flew home, was on a bus with his Texas A&M team, literally just a couple hours before he was named the next head coach at Texas. So he had his opportunity there as well.
Yep. Without question. You know what? And some feel like maybe this isn't the time. Well, when your time is limited, you find the time. To me, you always owe it to those players that you're going to leave, that you recruited to come play for you, and now you left them. The least you could do is explain it to them. It's not like it's going to be easier. There's no great time to do it, but do it anyway. So he does it. He gives the apology. So we move on from that. We move back to football with Will Blackman, former NFL player, now coaching in college. So we can touch on more than a few things with Will, including the new kickoff rule in the NFL. As a return specialist, I'll be very interested to hear him talk about this. Welcome back, GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Sr. here. My son is off and gallivanting around the world. Emerson, Claudia holding it down in the Boston studio. And being joined now by someone who's familiar with the Boston area, former Boston College student and student athlete. Will Blackman joining us now. Played for a bunch of years in the NFL, came out in the 06 draft, and now is a senior defensive analyst, I believe, with Boston College, as they have a new head coach there in Bill O'Brien. So, Will, appreciate the time this morning.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to jump on and be around some cool friends.
Oh, oh, that's nice. You're making their day in there. I guess I almost assumed, because you were Boston College, I was Notre Dame. So I assumed, and right before we came on, I said, I'm sure you don't have great memories of your games against Notre Dame, but you kind of never say you never lost to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I would say my last memory wasn't that great. I got picked on one game. Brady Quinn picked on me pretty good. Ooh. And for me, it wasn't well, but in my 4 years, yes, we have never lost to Notre Dame. We went to Notre Dame my freshman year when they were ranked 4 and they came out in the green jerseys. That didn't go so well for them. And then they came to BC and that didn't go so well for them. And then we went back to Notre Dame and that didn't go so well for them. So for me, yes, it's been a wonderful time at BC to go against Notre Dame.
Wow, I'm telling you, I was ready to talk a little bit of smack about you losing to Notre Dame all the time, but you just shut me up is what you did. So I'm going to move on and get away from that.
But you see how I did the B Rabbit from 8 Mile. I put out the stuff I went through first. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then I wrapped it back around with we still won, even though people can put highlights. I did get picked on a little bit, but we did win.
The micro was you got picked on. The macro was that you won the game. So that's probably the most important thing for Boston College fans out there. So now, play a bunch of time in the NFL. Now you're I want to get into some of the things in the NFL, but particularly into coaching and your decision. I had this decision to make when I left the NFL, was offered some coaching jobs, but didn't really want to jump into it. I always remember saying, man, I get there in the morning, the coaches are there. I leave at night, the coaches are there. You've seen the same thing, but you have jumped into this. So and you're just kind of getting going in this. So talk about your jump into coaching.
Well, it took a while because I said the same thing, Coach, I played about 12 years in the NFL. Actually, I played 12 years exactly. And same thing. I was the type where I was cerebral. So I would come in early. The guys are still there. I would come in late to watch more film. They're still there. There's some coaches had beds in their offices. Some coaches never saw their families. And so when I was done, I'm like, hell no, I do not want to coach. And then so jumping into TV was great. I had a blast calling games. I think calling games was probably the most fun. It was the closest to actually playing because I prepared all week and then I get to call games, but I still had my own life. But in between then and now, I was doing a lot of mentor probably 20 guys in the NFL. I actually work with agents during the draft process to get their college prospects ready for the NFL, whether that's film work, whether that's classroom work, whether it's field work, or overall just preparation. And during that time, I developed some relationships with coaches and GMs, and they all say you should probably think about getting into it because you do such a good job with some of these guys. And so last year I was like, you know what, let me find out what it's like. And I did the fellowship with the Dallas Cowboys. I did it from May to August. I did the whole offseason, and it was pretty cool. There were some long hours, but there were times where I was like, you know what, this is pretty damn cool. But I also learned it also depends who you are working with. If you work coaches that want to be there all day long, that don't care about nothing else, that's a different story. I remember Coach Mike McCarthy on every single itinerary, the first thing that said is dads, take your kids to school. Make sure you're home with your family, you're doing stuff, you're involved. Don't miss birthdays, recitals, games, don't miss anything. And so then last year I actually was pursuing it during coaching hiring season. And I was really close to I had an interview with the Commanders, which was close because I had a good relationship with Coach Dan Quinn, and that ended up falling through. But later on, Coach Bill O'Brien called, who I only know from playing against him in the NFL, And he said, I heard you're trying to get into coaching. You know, would you want to come back to BC? And my initial thought was like, not only was I not really wanting to coach, but definitely not college. like hell no in college, just knowing what it is. But I thought, you know what, this is my alma mater. This is there's a lot of things that I wish could change at BC. And this is my opportunity to actually directly impact it. So, you know, instantly he offered me a position to go up there and work there. And so far it's been a blast.
I'm sure it's sort of. I was just going to say, with the adjustment to going from player to coach, that's probably weird because you don't have as much control over whether your team's winning or losing. And of course, you have a lot of pride in this BC team. 7-6 last season. Curious what you think of the schedule coming up. You got Florida State early, obviously the ACC defending champs. Not having total control over the squad, how do you feel about this roster so far?
Yeah, you know what, Claudia, it's the first part about me not playing. But I feel like my experiences and what I have done and what I wish I have known, I can truly give it to these players just to help them in terms of preparation, mindset, thought process, like all the things I wish I'd done in college, all the things I wish I probably done better as a professional. And so I feel like, sure, I'm not playing, but I'm also part of, you know, helping them as much as I can. We have an incredible staff. Like Coach Bill O'Brien, he actually went and interviewed everyone. Like most coaches bring all their homeboys to the staff. He interviewed everyone. And just in terms of our roster right now, I mean, the guys are training there. We had a really, really good spring football and everyone bought in early. And right now the players are training their behinds off, getting ready, preparing every day for that first game versus Florida State on prime time. And so, yeah, the schedule is a schedule. You know, we're just excited to get better right now. And then one game at a time is how we're going to roll.
Yep. Got to play with who's on schedule. Nothing you can do about that one. I want to go to the NFL. You're a safety there, but also you return kicks as well. I know it was punts, but still with kickoffs. With the new kickoff rule in the NFL, which they took from the XFL, where the kicker's in the normal spot, but the kicking team is way up the field. Right. The return team is only, 5 yards away from, and nobody can move until the returner catches the ball. They're encouraging returns a little more. How much from either the kickoff team or the kicker himself will this change the dynamics, do you think?
I think... Well, number one, I'm happy that they're just keeping returns in general. You know, There's been a lot of flirtation in terms of like to get rid of it or what have you. When returning punts and kicks pretty much saved my career. When I got drafted in 2006, I was behind, two corners. They were okay. Charles Woodson and Al Harris, just two legends. And so I wasn't seeing the field. No matter what I did, I wasn't seeing the field. Those guys were elite, and they were in like year 6 and 7. Like it was crazy. And so my best opportunity was to return kicks and punts, which is something I did, pretty well in college and pretty much my whole life. And so I do like the fact that they're encouraging more returns. Like, okay, we can get it and return it. Because sometimes I remember I was playing against that 2002 Miami team, and I caught this is how fast they were going. I caught a kickoff, and these guys were on like the 15 and 10-yard line, and I had to kneel kickoffs, but to encourage more returns, which is cool because that is a position that saves a lot of careers.
Yep.
That's a position that saves a lot of careers in the NFL. So, I'm happy that they're doing something about that.
Going to be interesting if the same kickoff guys kick off, or if they get someone with the ability to tackle a little better starts to kick off. It's going to be, I'm glad they do it just for the reason you said, keep jobs in the NFL and get the returns back as well. Well,
the Chiefs might put Reed out there.
That's exactly right. I know. I think he's ready for it. I think he is ready for it. And good luck to you at the start of your coaching career with Bill O'Brien and BC. Best of luck to you guys, unless you ever play Notre Dame. So thanks, Will. I appreciate it. That's Will Blackman again. Now for Boston College, jumping into the coaching scene. Gotta love it. All right, we finish up how we normally do on GoJo and Golic with this, that, and the third coming up next. All right, finishing up here on GoJo and Golic, as always, remember, download, subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen. Leave us that 5-star rating, or Emerson will come after you. Watch us live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on DraftKings Network. That's a.m. Eastern. Streaming free on Samsung TV Plus, Roku channel, Xumo Play, and DraftKingsNetwork.com. Or you can always find full episodes on DraftKings YouTube as we get to this, that, and the third going on. And one of the first ones is a guy who keeps kind of getting a chance but keeps losing. Corey Perry, another cup loss, and part of this is a playoff loss as well. But listen to this: the teams he was on and what happened to him. In 2020, he was with Dallas, lost in the Cup Finals. 21, he was with Montreal, lost in the Cup Finals. 22, he was with Tampa, lost in the Cup Finals. 23, he lost just in the playoffs. And this year, he was with Edmonton, lost in the finals as well. Now, I will say this, guys, and I've said this about the Buffalo Bills, and or go way, way, way back to the Minnesota Vikings when they went to 4 Super Bowls, and Buffalo in my era went to 4 Super Bowls and lost. I would still rather go and lose than not go at all. So at least he was there. I remember there's the one player who had won a Super Bowl at one point and was going back for another, said, I would rather not go to a Super Bowl than go and lose, to which I called this person out because that's ridiculous. And you said it because you already have a Super Bowl. I don't care how many Super Bowls I have or, any kind of trophies. I want to be in the championship game. I'd rather go there and lose than not go there and all. So while this looks awful on the resume, lost in finals, lost in finals, lost in finals, the one thing you can say, Claudia, is I was in the finals. I had a chance for the cup.
You can. And like I've said in the past, I think the Stanley Cup playoffs, one of the hardest postseasons to get through. So that alone, to get to the Stanley Cup final, is an accomplishment in itself. But I cannot imagine as an athlete going through all of that year after year after year and not getting it. I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
Emerson, you would know. You've been to a lot of Stanley Cup finals, right?
Yeah, I certainly have. Yeah, no, it actually reminds me of my senior year. Apples to oranges here, but they have a lot in common. My senior year in college, I was the losing netminder on our floor hockey team.
Oh.
Yeah, in intramurals. Yeah. So that was tough, but I got redemption the next year, my 5th year, my second senior year.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Means a lot.
Yeah.
I talk about that a lot.
Intramural floor hockey. I do have actually an intramural story. I played intramural hockey at Notre Dame.
Oh.
We played at midnight. We were usually hammered. And
beer league.
I was never good at skating, so I was like on defense and just trying to keep myself in a position to stop the puck. So the one time the puck is coming toward me and a guy is coming toward me, and I'm trying to just stand up, and I swing at this puck. I missed the puck completely, caught dude right in the face with my stick. So guy hits the ground, and he puts both hands over his face and leaning down on the ice, and all of a sudden blood starts dripping through his fingers onto the ice. I'm like, oh, my God, I carved this dude's eye out. I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, dude, let me see. I pick his head up. I'm brushing the blood away.
His head fell off.
And it turns out he's got a little nick on just a little nick, where you bleed. When you cut that above your eye and it bleeds a lot, there was a little nick there. He's losing his mind thinking he's dying. And there's this, I'm like, all right, dude, you got a little nick here. You need probably 2 stitches. So get the hell up and move on. I went off the ice. I was done, though. I went off the ice, sat down, had another beer, and said, no, I'm not going to injure anybody else. I'm good.
He's like a more jacked Happy Gilmore. Like he can't skate, just sits back there with this stick and just tries to fight dudes.
Oh,
that's it. I was just going to dive in front of the puck if need be. But, yeah, I ended up carving this dude the top of his eye. All right, let's go on to real athletes again. And Claudia, a big-time name left off the big-time team coming to the Olympics.
Yeah, if you thought Caitlin Clark was an issue, how about about Alex Morgan, who's been not only a fan favorite, but in terms of what she's done for soccer? Turns 35 next week. 224 caps, okay, 123 goals, each among the most of active U.S. players, ranking 9th and 5th, respectively, in program history. Well, she was left off of the Olympic roster. She tweeted today, "I'm disappointed about not having the opportunity to represent our country. This will always be a tournament that is close to my heart. I take immense pride anytime I put on the crest," but she says, "I will be there supporting the team." She ends it with LFG. We all know what that means. So
Yes,
she took it right. She said the right things, but Senior, yeah, I mean, this is another move that doesn't make total sense. I'm not watching soccer as closely as others, and of course the committee is, but it is shock values there for sure.
Well, I mean, we always get to the point, right, where we have these aging veterans and how long do they stay on? You know, how much are they still contributing? We saw Megan Rapinoe, it was her last Olympics last time around, and how playing time comes down. They were these stars years ago, but now they're a little older. And when is it time to make room for the younger player who maybe is going to contribute more? Obviously, what she's given to this team and the name value here and the star value hurts, but I think this is one of the tougher times. Remember, the Olympics only come around every 4 years, so to just, I know you have world championships and different things, but to put somebody on when maybe somebody else is going to come along and be better and have to wait all that time to get that chance. I get it. These can be tough decisions on just the fact of having her on, of how great it would be, Emerson, for, you know, just that name and that value. But people are still going to watch. Hopefully they win the gold. It's always that transition time we get where we're so used to seeing someone and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah, and she was the only player with an Olympic gold medal seriously considered for this roster. The rest of that 2012 team has either retired or been phased out here. But her goal scoring, which I think we can all agree a striker's most valuable trait, it's kind of dried up. There was a reason she was left off that 23-player roster this past winter. She was eventually called up, I think, because of an injury. But that 18-player limit proved to be too restrictive for her in this situation.
I can't imagine what that's like. And Senior, you know, too, like as you got older, the mentality side of this, realizing, oh, I'm not what I used to be.
Well, it's a tough thing, but players usually, sometimes it depends. Some players, maybe more than others, can see that. I remember Mark Schlereth, the guy who I played football at the same time as in the NFL, was watching film when he was older, film of a practice, going, "Oh my God, that guy is struggling." And then he realized, wait, that guy is me. You know what? I'm not what I once was. And you know, how quickly does as an athlete have that self-realization that I can't do what I did, and there's younger players that can. It's tough. Forget the physical part. It's very, very difficult for the mental part. All right, Emerson, we have an agent out there giving gifts to a pope.
Indeed we do. Sean Stellato. So he is the agent of Giants third-string quarterback Tommy DeVito, good friend here of Claudia. He had the distinguished honor of meeting Pope Francis in Vatican City. He posted it on his Instagram this week, and he also successfully handed off a custom football as a gift to His Holiness, which brings me to the question, what would you give the Pope as a gift, Senior?
Wow, that's a great question. Oh, I mean, can you imagine the gifts that he has accumulated over the years of what you give a Pope?
He probably looks like a hoarder with all the stuff.
Exactly. That's a great question. The one thing that surprised me, I remember seeing Stellato after a Detroit Lion game that I called on a Sunday night at the airport the next day, and he was in a green jumpsuit. I'm a little bummed out that sitting with the Pope, wasn't in one of his wild outfits, and it was like in a normal outfit. I guess that's showing respect for the Pope. I'm doing all this in biding time to figure out. I don't know, Emerson. What would you give the Pope?
Why would you ask him that?
I can tell you right now, I have a Trevor Lawrence signed Jaguars helmet that is in heavily protected bubble wrap right now, and I would give that up for His Holiness and like a little blessing. You know, just hook me up with a blessing, big man, and here's a helmet.
Shouldn't Trevor Lawrence be giving his helmet to the Pope? And
no. I'm the messenger.
Same thing.
Well, you're the messenger. Listen. Well, we hope you Hope you enjoyed our messages today, even though I screwed it up a lot. So we will see you tomorrow. Finish up the weekend. I swear I'll try and do better. I highly doubt it.
You got this, boss.